Okay. So we are recording this. So I think I will just start. It's 5 minutes past the hour. And we have just the two of you, which is a bit interesting because like 45 people registered so far for this session. But maybe they just want to see it later on from the replay. Mm, with me is Jakub, the head of QuantJourney. And he is here to also answer some of your questions that might be very financial or quant in nature, because I will be focusing on something else today. And that something else will be how we can speed up our development with AI. And a lot has been happening in this space, as you know, over the last 3 and more over the last 2 years. That change seems to be accelerating, and we can already benefit from it or be afraid of it. I mean, that depends on your point of view. I think I'm taking the positive view that we can benefit a lot from that. And what we'll be talking about is how we can significantly accelerate Python development. I'm putting Python in brackets because it applies to most popular languages. And I will expand on that a bit later. But I will focus on Python because Python is the language of choice, both for AI and machine learning and for quant and finance. And I assume you are not very experienced at this. If you are, we have the luxury of having a very small audience, which means we can adjust to whatever you want. Hi, Robert. Nice to see you. It would be nice to see you. Glad that you are joining. So in any case, so I assume you are not having, you don't know all those tools. So we'll cover core concepts, we'll run a demo, I will be building a very simple monitoring app. And what we won't do, we won't dive into LLMs, AI theory, and why all of that works. It's fascinating subject, but not for today. Not for today. If you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and talk, because as I said, there's not so many of us as to make that impractical. But also, you can use the chat if, for example, your computer has no microphone. And this is our very simple agenda for today. First, what advantages we get. Second, what classes of tools we have available. We have largely 3 classes of tools at our disposal right now. And I will discuss some of those. I will focus on some of those, the ones that I used or try to use, because at least one of those tools somehow didn't appeal to me very much. So, but I tried it anyway. And then we'll focus on the course, and I will show first of all, I will show how to configure it well, stuff that you really have to set to be effective, and the basic features. And then we'll be building something, and we will conclude with some takeaways. And then I hope for some kind of discussion. Everything seems good so far. Now you might be wondering why there is an asterisk near the developers. I mean, AI doesn't help just developers. It can also help other people build stuff. However, I think it is the developers who will really benefit from those tools, because it really helps if you actually understand what is it that they are building and what is really happening. So the ability to actually dive in and check what's going on is really what makes a lot of difference when still using those tools. So let's discuss what advantages we get. So first and most obvious, obviously, writing code. Now, this is how it all began, didn't it? It kind of began first with having ChatGPT 3, which was able to generate some code snippets, and then you could copy and paste them, and they kind of worked. Then was the GitHub Copilot, which was able to generate those small code snippets inside the IDE. And it worked, but it compared to what we have available today, it was still arduous work to work with Copilot when I remember it now. And now we have Cursor, we have Windsurf, and we can say write this and it will write it. But another very interesting feature is this what I call tab, and so you can make a change like it's an even a small change, like you are changing the way you are calling a library or changing some parameters or something, and then you can just tap to next places where that thing is, and the IDE will know that this is what you want to change and will help you change that consistently throughout the file, and it will do it intelligently. It's much more intelligent than just doing search replace. So it speeds up a lot. Another thing is, of course, writing tests. And let's admit it, we don't like writing tests, do we? It's not what we want. We want the functionality to move ahead. And I know everyone is talking about it. I know we have approaches like test-driven development and so on. But nevertheless, let's be honest, more often than not, we just press ahead with functionality and worry about testing later. Now we have an assistant that can speed up writing tests a lot, which makes writing tests easier, kind of lowers the bar of difficulty on writing tests, which means we'll do that more often, which means the code will be better. Another element is writing documentations, and it's another thing we don't like to do, but it's absolutely necessary. We still need documentation. Right now, we start to need it not just for other humans, we start to need it for AIs, for example. If we are writing libraries or something that can be used as a library, then the documentation most often will be now read by an AI. But still, it has to be there. Also, if we build anything more complex and it requires some documentation for users, also AI can do that for us. So that speeds up a lot. Another thing that we can do with AI is discussing and assisting, getting assistance in designing and planning the architecture for whatever app we are doing. And I would say that using AI as a discussion partner and co-invention, co-creation partner is, I think, one of the most underappreciated aspects of AI in general, not just in software development. And I will kind of show later how that works, but it's really powerful, especially considering that now you can do it even on the go. So you can have your ChatGPT voice or Claude with voice or Gemini with voice and even strategize your app while driving a car. So it really kind of makes you even more effective, but also leads to better designs. And this is especially for those of us who are working alone and do not have the benefit of a team that we could discuss with. Another element is helping with legacy code and unfamiliar, poorly documented libraries. I'm sorry that my slides are not very artistic. Now, this is a game changer of sorts, especially for those who work with stacks of Java code, for example, which is poorly written and not very understandable. AI can help you understand what's going on. And if you are working with legacy code like this, quite often, as you add anything new, even if you don't want to, you are forced to refactor some of the old code. And AI kind of reduces the pain considerably. Another use case is those poorly documented libraries. And I would just say that Gemini is very good with that, because Gemini, the Google Gemini 2.5, has a key advantage over all other models, namely a huge context window of 1 million tokens, which means that you can paste, I mean, even without using any additional tools, just using the regular chat interface, you can just paste huge chunks of code and start asking questions. And this is a great way to, for example, find out in a poorly undocumented open source library what's going on and how to actually use it without having to kind of manually go layer by layer. And in one such instance, it took me like 5 to 10 minutes to get to understanding level that I needed. And I reckon it would have taken 2 to 3 hours before. So it's like a considerable saving of time. Debugging, I don't know if you are familiar with this rule by Eric Raymond, given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow. That was his explanation why open source code tends to be high quality because so many people review it. So now we have another set of eyeballs, the AI eyeballs. It doesn't have eyeballs, but it has a much larger context window that we have. So it is able to look at much larger chunks of code at the same time, and that helps with debugging immensely, as you probably know. And also it can help with UIs. I'm not very good with UIs, to be honest. I prefer the console and commands and stuff like that. But obviously, in 2025, that is not how we design the apps. So we prefer graphic user interfaces, and our users prefer them. So yeah, it's good to have like a designer. AIs are not very good at it. I mean, those text-based are not very good at it, but you can couple that with the graphic AIs and get pretty good interface. I mean, you can get good enough interfaces even without those. So those are these advantages that we have. And I would like to underline the architecture and design aspect because it's really, really important. Any questions so far? Everything good? Okay. So what tools we have? And let's look at the tool set that we have now. So we have three types of tools. First of all, we have AI-enabled IDEs. And by the way, most of them are Visual Studio Code. It's historically the first one was Visual Studio Code with the GitHub Copilot plugin, which by now has been, well, it's still being developed, but I think Cursor, Windsurf really charged ahead and are much more ahead than GitHub Copilot is even now. We have Cursor, which I think is kind of winning the game right now. We have Windsurf, which is another VS Code fork, which has a slightly different philosophy than Cursor. I'm not a very big fan of it. Not that it's anything wrong with it, but I just don't see advantage of switching from Cursor. And by the way, for your information, I was using Visual Studio Code for years. So when GitHub Copilot came out, it was natural to just add another plugin and start using that. But in December last year, I discovered Cursor. So I installed Cursor, and within like one day, I canceled my GitHub Copilot subscription and switched to Cursor and haven't looked back since. I know PyCharm, which is this JetBrains IDE for Python. I know it has AI as well, but I have to say I haven't tested it. So I cannot say anything about it. Now, all of those are not, I mean, all of those are driven behind by foundational LLMs. And one of the big advantages of those tools is that you can switch between them easily, even with maintaining context, which is very important. Now, they do have their own models and their own AI, but this AI is trained to prepare your prompts and context to be fed to the foundational models behind. Now we have another level of tools, which is autonomous programmers. And some of you might remember Devin from last year. There was lots of hype around it, but so far this hype has not produced what they have promised. And it's also prohibitively expensive. But we did get other tools. We did get Codex and Codex CLI from OpenAI. We did get Jules from Google. And we did get Claude Code, which first release of it was not very impressive. It was like, again, half a year ago, like November last year, if I remember correctly, but it has improved significantly since then. Actually, preparing for this webinar has forced me to revisit some of those tools, and I'm really amazed how Claude Code has developed. So the idea of AI Autonomous Programmer is that we don't even focus on looking at the code directly anymore. We focus on the architecture and on what we want to build, and the agents are working in the background and building it, right? So far, those tools are, I have mixed experience with them. I think the best right now is Claude Code. One of the disadvantages of those is that you are stuck with one foundational model, with the exception again of Cursor, which is having its own background agents, and they again can switch between the foundational models. And I think in the long run, it will yield better results than sticking to one model. But obviously, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic build tools around their own models. That's natural. That's what they essentially want to sell. And I'm putting the regular chat here, and I think regular chat still has a place in our workflow. And this is so because with regular chat, you can have a wider discussion. You can have a discussion that touches upon things like actual needs of our users, like different domains that purely development focused models and agents, that is models with prompts that give them certain personality, they might not be as good at. I think they still have a place. Now, there is an evolution going on, obviously. So this is how it went from general chat through AI-enabled IDEs, and I would say this is the current peak power, through to autonomous IDE, which I think this year, maybe next year, will become more and more the tool of choice. It can be combined, by the way. You can combine the two. You can combine Claude Code and Cursor, for example. And you can also, in a sense, combine yourself working in Cursor or other AI-powered IDE. You can combine it with Jules or Codex or other such agent working in the background on something else, because the way those tools work allow this kind of thing. So let's have a look at the tools. This is Cursor. This is Windsurf. I talked about them a bit. I will be showing Cursor a lot because that's my tool of choice, and I think it's the most popular tool right now, offering the best mix of features and capabilities, and especially with the latest release of the version 1.0. We have Windsurf, which has many fans. I'm not one of them, so I will not be covering, but it's really similar in its idea and how it works. We have Jules. Now, Jules is Google's product, and it uses Google's models, which are right now very good and have excellent ratio of price to power, I would say, because Google is trying to recapture the market. So I find myself using Gemini 2.5, even in Cursor, a lot more than other models. Also because it's actually quite cheap for the power it offers. And both Jules and Codex, which looks like this, and this one, I don't have a screenshot of that, but the background agents from the creators of Cursor, they work in the following way. You go to a web interface, you connect your GitHub, then you select the repository and the branch that you want it to work on, and then you enter the prompt, and then it goes to work, and you can converse with it and everything, but the end result is basically a pull request. So at the end, you get another branch that you can check out. You can review it on your computer and then decide to pull it and merge it with whatever branch you wanted it to merge with that you started on, usually main. So in a sense, you can start this agent and then go back to your IDE and be working on something else while it is working on its task with the repository. That's how Jules works. That's how Codex works. And that's how background agents from the creators of courses, I always forget the name of the company, how those work. Now, Cloud Code, it works totally differently because it's a console app that is working on your machine with the code on your file system. So it's a totally different philosophy. However, obviously, it uses Claude. Interestingly, by default, it works with Claude Sonnet. You have to switch it to allow it to use more expensive and more intelligent Claude Opus. And it really does a good job. But while it is working, you cannot actually do changes because that would change the state of the code that it kind of remembers and might lead to problems. So in a sense, it's a slight disadvantage of Claude Code. Now, I did run, just for your information, I did run a simple experiment yesterday. And that simple experiment was that I took same code base for a content preparation management system. And I focused on one file in that code base. And that one file was something that I have written, like I started writing it like 3 years ago. And I was kind of learning Python because by heart and by history, I'm more into things like C, C++, Pascal. So Python wasn't my thing up until 3 years ago. So that file wasn't great. It wasn't really a program. It was a script with complex ifs that I wasn't really, I mean, it worked, but I wasn't really proud of how it looks. So I gave all of those tools the very same prompt, which is refactory to be object-oriented and clean and nice. And I did let them run, and then I compared it. And the result are that the Claude and the Cursor win this competition. Now, Codex did a very poor job. It didn't remove most of the ifs. It didn't remove global variables that I were setting up and then changing their states, a very bad practice. It didn't remove all that. It didn't really create a class for the main functionality. So it basically didn't do the job I asked it to do. Now Jules did a very ambitious refactoring. However, it created one huge class, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So it took me some manual tweaks, like 10 minutes of work, and then it worked. However, it didn't work. Now, both Claude and Cursor, and in Cursor I used Gemini as the AI model, produced a working refactor. And I have to say that Claude Code produced a more ambitious refactor, one that produced a number of classes with separation of concerns, and it was really a good design. And also it worked out of the box. So I would say it won, but looking at the code, I would say it's a difference of taste and preference, whether I would prefer the Claude version or the Cursor version. So I was quite impressed, I have to say. I was also surprised that OpenAI's tool did so poorly in this test. So I'm just sharing that with you just to give you some perspective on how those tools relate to one another. Now let's look what those tools are good for. I would say up until now, autonomous agents were very good for relatively small changes. I was testing that mostly on Codex. But I have to say that right now, I would say with careful planning, they can also build larger features. And I would cover what cautious planning is. AI-enabled IDEs are, as I said, at the pinnacle of power right now, and regular chat is best for strategizing. However, it's also very good, Gemini and Gemini especially, for legacy code and library understanding, mostly because you can load much more context into it because of its larger context window. Okay, so I will now be switching to Cursor and I will be showing some things. So the question is, do you have any questions at this point? Anything that you would like me to cover? I will now stop sharing the screen and and I need to switch windows. But in the meantime, I will be looking at the chat. Or you can say something by just unmuting yourself and talking. Hmm.
Can you hear me, Andy?
Yes.
This is Victor. I found a USB mic. Have you looked at Augment Code at all?
Augment code. No, I haven't looked at it. Tell me more about it.
Um, it's fairly, I mean, it's newer than all the others you've been mentioning. I think it just came online April. Seems to have a better ability to look at things in more depth and breadth. Based on, not that I've tested it that far, but based on reviews and other people's opinions on what's going on. So I was just curious if you had looked at it.
No, I haven't. And that's another interesting dynamic that we face now is that the rate of change is so quick that you have this choice. Do I follow the latest news and latest tools, or do I concentrate on coding and building something? And there is a tension. I actually have created like an AI tool that scans the news and produces a digest for me of what's interesting and changing, because otherwise I just cannot cope with that, with the rate of change. So yeah, I haven't looked at it. Thanks for bringing it up. I will look at it, of course, um, what that is, and yeah, we'll see whether I wonder who produced that. That's another thing, but I will see. Yeah.
Okay,
Do
thank you.
you do you know by any chance what models they are running on? Probably OpenAI, as I guess, as
I
most
don't.
others.
I mean, this is something I've just started looking at and getting into, and based on that, I've downloaded the Augment Code. I haven't used any of the others, to be honest.
Okay. I think many of the things I will be showing will be applicable also to augment code. Definitely. Okay. So
I have a question real quick, Andy. Just curious about the costs that you're incurring on a monthly basis for these various tools. I mean, right, obviously, like, Cursor, I mean, they all, right? I mean, if they're commercial, they have pricing plans, and then API charges on top of those pricing plans once you reach limits. I mean, it becomes, yeah, I mean, it's helpful, but then also if, right, I mean, my issue is, if I'm building anything that is beyond simple web or data analysis stuff, I burn through cash on this because they're not all that good, especially trying to tailor specific algorithms to financial markets. I mean, I'll be honest, like they disappoint me time and time and time again, and it's $5, $10, $20 burned over and
yeah,
over
it
again.
is. I mean,
So I have been, to be honest with you, I've been very underwhelmed. Like, it gives great ideas, but I think that's one of the big issues right now when it comes to LLMs, coding, financial markets, all this. Like, there's so much hype around, hey, like, let this LLM devise a strategy to you, for you. But I mean, I've been in this game long enough that an LLM may give you something, but there's no substitution for just the brute force amount of computation that you have to run on the back end in order to
yeah,
provide
absolutely.
any sort of performance diagnostics that are going to give you any confidence in terms of, yeah, this is worth trading or not. So anyway, I got on my
Yeah,
soapbox a
I
little
mean,
bit.
so there are two aspects of it. So I'm just showing my billing. So it's like close to $50 for Cursor. I have not. I have. I mean, I have just the lowest subscription, and I pay on top of that April was a bit more intense because I did more work, so that was like $60. I could easily go over 100, but on top of that, you have to add all the you have to add all the other tools that I subscribe to. So I would say it's around $200 to $300 per month right now.
I maybe I can add, Andy, if you allow me.
Sure.
So basically for the quant stuff and what we found, we recently finished reviewing of 20 few startups in AI space when they support AI LLM change on the portfolio reports or companies on whatever. And most of them are using a simple LLMs, and they really lacking the like a really back office when there is a strong back test, strong research stuff, and they pretty much putting everything to LLMs and trying to find the answer, filtering that and giving back to users. So I completely agree with you. That's one is like quite simple to write with LLMs a lot of the stuff, which is like a front end. But when you go with the backend and all real quant stuff, it's not as easy, and it requires a lot of work.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for that feedback. Yeah, no, I'm interested to hear, more about that as well too. If you said that, you've reviewed that and some quant shops and how they're using it. Again, right, through my experience, it's just the amount of hype. I don't want to call it slop. I mean, it's good, but it's just out there promoting using large language models to develop strategies and whatnot. It's still like, okay, you still got to have the compute to run these strategies on the back end.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you
And
know,
also you have to remember that LLMs are language models. That is, they are very good at processing structured data. They are quite good at thinking, but they are very poor at calculating. So you shouldn't rely on their calculations at all. So that's
true. Yeah, I mean, and granted, right, the explosion of MCP servers and being able to tie in REST APIs to MCP calls. That
yes.
right, you offload that. It's still like, I mean, it still comes down to computation.
I mean, of course. I mean, there is no escaping that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, whatever computation has to be done, it has to be done.
yeah.
Although I would say that the regular computation usually is less expensive than running the model, right?
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah. No, I mean, Jacob, I know you've been posting some stuff on agents and it sounds like you've been working with some groups, some trading groups in that. I mean, and look forward to hearing more about that. Maybe not in this call, but
no.
future
Here
calls.
we are focusing just on the
Yeah,
tooling.
absolutely.
So let's look at Cursor and some basic information about the setup that you have to do. Well, you don't really have to do, but it is a good idea to do. So one example is, so maybe it's not example, it's not a good word. So you have settings, and then if you work with Visual Studio Code, everything is familiar here, but there are some special settings here that are worth mentioning. First of all, there is the privacy mode. If you used Cursor before early May, you may have privacy mode legacy here, and it's worth switching to current privacy mode, which allows you to use background agents, basically. Now here you have the chat type, one of the very welcome additions to version 1.0 is that you can enlarge the text in here. You can select the default mode. I will not be going through all the options because it makes no sense, but I want to highlight first of all that here we can switch on the tab, and this is the tabbing from place to place that I have mentioned, but also what is really worth switching on is this, okay? Because then it helps you even write the comments. Now let's look at the models, and when you install Cursor, some of those models are not switched on. and it's worth switching them on. Now this small icon means a thinking model, and it's worth switching the newest Claude, because as far as I remember, some of them were not switched on when I installed the new version. This is the background agents. This is something I will not cover in this call, but you should explore that as well. You can connect GitHub, which is very useful. You can add MCPs, though so far I didn't find MCPs that would be useful for me personally, because I'm not using Notion, I'm not using Slack, I'm not using all those things. But I'm sure I will find some in the future. Now, what is interesting here is rules. And for example, you have general rules, and I have, those are my rules. So first of all, I tell it to follow PIP8. I tell it to avoid lambdas. I don't like lambdas. So whenever it encounters a lambda, it should refactor it to be a proper function. I really don't like lambdas. So this is my rule for it. Of course, you can say I love lambdas, use them everywhere you want. And also another thing is, when debugging a problem in Composer agent mode, propose just one solution per generation. This is to stop it from going in a long loop that I have to manually stop. In earlier versions, I think this behavior kind of is less often now, maybe because of this rule, was that it was trying to run tests before the changes that it made could have taken place. So that's it. Now, another thing that I want to switch on now is generate memories. So it's like memories in ChatGPT. Based on how I talk with it, it will generate its own memories to work with me better. Another thing is cursor rules. Now, this rule is for every project. This rule is something that resides in your project folder. It's probably you can even check it into the repository so that everyone in your team follows the same cursor rules. And I have here an empty project, but I will just quickly copy my cursor rules from some other project here, and then I will show you how it looks. Basically, this is my background. I did give it user background, and I'm telling it how to work, how to problem solve, etc. You can make it much more detailed. You can include some specific guidelines for example, naming variables, naming classes. If you have such style guide, it would go here. This will be the style guide for that particular project. So this is another thing to be aware. Now, another thing that many people do not do is this here, which is documentation. Now, Cursor can index documentation and use it then within your project. What is unfortunate is that this documentation is for all the projects. That is, it's not project specific. It's well, in whatever folder you start Cursor, this will be the same documentation. But nevertheless, it's very, very interesting to have it. For example, as you can see, I have lots of AG2 documentation. This one didn't index properly. Let's see if it doesn't work. No, it indexes. No, it doesn't index correctly. It's being indexed right now. What is interesting is that there is more than one page. It depends on how the providers of the documentation structured it. AG2 documentation unfortunately cannot be indexed from one URL, which is why I have so many entries here. But for example, Marketo, this is an API for news relevant to market and investment. They provide their documentation so that with a simple URL, I have like 60 pages which are indexed. What it means they are indexed, they are turned into a vector store that is available for the agent when I call for it. So this is a very nice feature. You can work with it from the chat interface as well, but it doesn't auto-update. So it's really important to sometimes go here and, I don't know, reindex some of those documents, just to be sure that your documentation or the documentation of the models is up to date. And this is really powerful, because then the model knows, for example, how to call different functions in the library that you are using. So this is something that I really recommend doing. Another feature is notepads, where you can create stuff that will be added to the context. It should be somewhere here, that you can add new. No, sorry, they are down here, and you can create notepads. Those are like notes that you can write, and they are part of the project, and they should help the model work with it. I actually prefer to have a doc or docs folder and have markdown documents there, which are checked into repository, because that's how I work. I prefer that. But there is a nice feature like this. Okay, so this is an overview of the configuration, but also how you work with it. I mean, you have this window here, and you basically type whatever you want. You can add things to context, like files from your directory. We are in an empty directory right now. You can add documents, so tell it to look at a certain set of documentation. You can work with Git directly. You can also reference past chats, because if you look here, this is the history of chats. And and it's also project specific, which is nice. And you can reference past chats as well. Here you select the mode. You have 3 modes: the agent, the ask, and the manual. The agent is the mode that you are living in most of the time. Ask is the mode which doesn't immediately edit anything. It just allows you to talk about the code base, which is quite interesting. And you have manual mode, which again doesn't use tools. It just creates suggestions, and then you decide to include them or not. The agent mode is, of course, the most powerful. You can have your custom modes, and I will be again not covering them here, but I have like custom mode for analysis or custom mode for documentation. And what a custom mode is, you set what models or model are you using. In this case, it's an auto selection. You set which tools are available to it, and then you can have your own prompt here. And the window to edit the prompt is ridiculously small, so obviously I'm editing it outside of this. But this is the way to have your own modes. I mean, why I'm having those modes? For example, in the analysis mode, the idea is to analyze the code base and generate a plan and save it to a file and not touch anything else in the code base. That's what the prompt says. So this is how we work with the modes. We also can select the agents. When you install it, it's on auto, and I prefer to know what model I'm dealing with. I usually work in the max mode. Max mode gives more context, and context is everything for LLMs, so I'm willing to pay more for that. And recently I'm working mostly with Gemini 2.5 Pro because it's pricing. Yeah, what you mentioned about the pricing, all of all that. The pricing of Gemini is very friendly in Cursor right now. But if you would like to not pay through Cursor, for example, you got a great deal from, I don't know, Anthropic, then you could enter your API key here and pay at token cost that you have as a direct client of Anthropic or Google. However, then some of the features will not work. And this is so because, and I have a slide for that, so maybe I will show it very quickly, but I have to find it first. But this is how Cursor actually works, and I will just show this image very quickly because I think it's important. Yep. Okay, so your code and your prompt goes through some kind of local Cursor processing. So Cursor, as an editor, collects the context from the files, and then it sends that to a Cursor servers, and they have custom models and editing tools that work there. And only after they do some magic with your code, it all goes as a one huge prompt to the foundational model and then goes back. So when you are using Cursor, you're actually using also some models that they have devised to make basically code editing possible. And this is, again, something great that they have done, and then other companies followed, which is actually make it possible for AIs to edit code, because what AIs cannot do is actually edit anything. They have to regenerate it every time. So what we have to do is to make an intelligent diff and apply the edits without all that did not change, but the model regenerated that anyway. So that's the contribution that Cursor is making. Okay. Anything you want to say or ask? Because I don't see your faces, so I have no idea if you are falling asleep or getting bored or whatever. But we'll move to doing something now. And I want to make sure that I have some of your attention at least. It's really hard to talk to the screen without seeing your faces. But in any case, so another 6. Thanks, Victor, for that thumbs up. Means a lot. Okay, so another slide here, because I want to share my workflow. Now, my workflow, I mean, obviously for small changes, like add something here, fix a small bug, whatever, I'm just typing it into the prompt window in Cursor and just does it. But if I want to do something larger, I'm first analyzing and strategizing with a model. And I'm saying a model because I use different model and different contexts for that. And in this demonstration that I will be doing, I will not be using Cursor for that. I will be using Gemini. So I will be first strategizing and creating a plan for the model. Then I will give that plan to the model in Cursor, and then I will proceed to implement and end up with documenting what we have implemented. So this is my typical workflow, those 3 stages. That's why I had those custom modes for that. Although I have to say that over the last 2 months, the agent mode has improved so much that I find I don't use those custom modes as much as I used to. Okay, so let's switch back again to my window. Now it's quite high res, so the question is, can you see what's on the screen really? But I hope you can. Hope you can. Okay, so let's go back to our demonstration. Just a second, I have to switch through my windows here, because obviously I will not be wasting your time more on typing stuff. Okay, so this is Gemini 2.5 Pro, the usual chat interface that you know, and let's start a new chat. So that's a new chat, and we start a new project. And what I would like to be building would be a simple tool to show me some key indicators for a stock ticker. I mean, that's something that I hope we can build in 20 minutes or so. So how I will start, this is the prompt, and I will go over the prompt for a while. I mean, I pasted it obviously because I wanted to save some time. But basically what I'm doing is I'm telling the model we'll be using eFinance to collect financial information. We're building a simple dashboard that will show on the terminal using Reach, the Python library for terminals, with some information. This would include the current places and basic interests, some computed data based on history and possibly something else, and we'll be using that. So any charts would have to be adapted to this UI. And we'll be also using Jakub's excellent QuantJourney TI library, which, by the way, was released as a Python package like yesterday or 2 days ago. So you can just install it with a pip command. And what I want the AI to do with me is prepare a plan. and that plan then will be passed on to the developer. Now, as always in this initial prompts, I always end with, do you have any questions? Because if anything is unclear, I want the model to tell me. So let's send it and let's see what it will respond. And we can show what it thinks. So it looks at libraries. It's already starting to formulate some plan, some modules, some initial structure. It has been using for tutorials, which is interesting. And by the way, Google Gemini kind of like uses Google search engine in the background without even telling you that. So we have like certain structure, right? I'm noticing that there is main pi here as an entry point, data fetcher, calculator, indicator, and so on. Okay, so there are questions. How do you envision the user interfacing with the tool, interacting with the tool? Should it ask for ticker once, display the dashboard, and exit? Should it be a persistent session where the user can enter, view the data, and so on? And I have some answers. Prepared, so I will use that. And I will be not answering this, but normally I would be answering those questions. What indicators, for example, and well, how should be represent, and so on. So some of the answers I have, so I will paste that. Okay. So some of the answers I had prepared, and here they are. Okay, so I'm showing the model this. On top of this, do not use sparklines as a library because I know it doesn't work. So if I know that, I can tell the model immediately. But yes, this is how they can look like. What else it asked? Indicators. Please suggest the best indicators. What else we can okay, so what I did say here, by the way, that I prefer this name, monitorec.py. I want to discuss what indicators we should compute, so I'm kind of repeating myself. I would like to input the ticker on the command line as well. A possibility to also input, but also change the ticker in the tool as it works. UI being colorful and nice, more interesting indicators shown than RSI and SMA because everyone knows that. Pick interesting one from QuantJourney TI, and I can actually direct it to the page of QuantJourney TI, which I have prepared here. So I will just paste that in. An SQLite DB to keep the data so that we don't have to reload it, and a procedure that will keep and refreshing every 1 minute, because I think every 1 minute or so is enough. And I have added those two responses, which I added on the fly. Let's see what comes out now. And yep, so we have some Chalkin, Keltner, average directional index. I have no idea if those indicators are in this library, but we'll check that later on. And this is the plan. Here's a structure plan, project overview and goal, core features, okay, file structure, okay, component breakdown and logic. This is the description of what will be in each file. So that looks like something that we could go with to the tool and develop, but that's not but I still don't like it. I still want to refine it. So I wanted to review and update it following these guidelines. First of all, I have an incremental plan, and this is important. I want a plan that will have phases, and I want it to be incremental, which means at the end of each phase, there must be something that works and I can demonstrate it. And also, I wanted to remember to add tests and include running tests at the end of each phase in the plan. So I will let it run, and I will explain why I'm going through all this trouble. And I'm going through all this trouble to make sure that my agent stays on track as it works. The key problem of AIs is that they are losing context, because AI can only see as much as fits in its context window. And even the mighty Gemini with 1 million token context window has that context window limited. Which means that as we discuss the code, as it's generating code, reading code, etc., very quickly it will forget what was the original goal. And therefore, I want to have a file that I can reference it to, and actually it will on its own look into that file that tells us step A, that we want to do, but also what steps to take and which phase we are in now. And I go as far as to telling it to edit that. That is, mark in the plan what was already accomplished and what is not yet accomplished. This way, if I'm interrupted mid-session or whatever, then I can kind of restart and continue. So I have this plan. Let's have a look at it. End of phase 1, phase 2, database caching, phase 3, indicator calculation, rich dashboard, async refresh, verification and testing. Okay, it looks good, but it would benefit from re-adding background info on the whole app at the beginning, so that the developer AI knows why it is building this. So this is, I think, an important element of any plan. So let's correct my typo. Also, I mean, I will, and I have a number of things that I want to include here, because I know from experience that these help. So let's paste that in. I have to copy it as Markdown, Markdown being the native format for AIs. So those statements should be in the plan. Never assume library APIs, always verify methods and signatures, test rich components individually, specify exit rich configuration, include data cleaning requirements, add debug modes for the start, and test with minimal examples. And also I have my own things that I want to add here. And again, I had them prepared, sorry for that. But this way I'm saving you time watching me typing. But also what I'm saying is not use rich sparklines lib. I know they don't work, so I want to avoid this problem. I want an option that will help AI test this, because AI cannot really test a full screen app, but it can test some debugging mode. I want to have a Q key to exit the app, and I want to make sure that SQLite database can clean records for many tickers, so that we don't go to Y-Finance all the time. So as you can see, it's quite comprehensive. Let's see how it updates the plan. So I have promised you working with Cursor, but so far we are still sitting in the regular chat, but just preparing the plan. And it will pay off, I promise, but it's still the very traditional interface. So here is a better plan. So we have project vision and goals. We have core development principles included, and we have phases, right? Phase 2, phase 3, and it's still generating a very detailed plan, right? Okay. Okay, so I think we are good now to to there's one more thing that I think I will add just manually to the file. Okay, so I'm copying that to get it as Markdown, and again, Markdown being the native format is important. And let's just paste it here, and we see the plan here, but we have to remove that part, right? We have this file. This file has to start here, and this is the part that I want to add. Let's call it appendix, and this will be rich display implementation guidelines. And why I'm adding that? Because this is not the first console-based monitor that I did. There is this excellent crypto course going on, and as part of the crypto course, we have been developing that. And from that, I know that the AI kind of struggles with some of those. It figures it out, but I just want to do it faster. Okay, so now let's go here. I have my empty catalog, and what I'm doing here is I will create a subdirectory called doc, and I will send it as implementation. Sorry, it's here. MD. Okay. So it appeared here now in cursor, and we have it here. Okay. And we can see it very nicely. So we can start now. We can start now. And we'll start by telling the agent what we want to do. So I will close that as well. I think I will try to make the window slightly bigger so that you can see what I'm typing here. So let's start. We are beginning a new project. A comprehensive project plan is prepared for you and here I can type this sign, the add sign, and then I can either select with my mouse or I can start typing implementation plan MD. And what that does, it will include that in the context when this whole thing is mangled, put together and sent to the model. And what I will be adding, I'm just told it the facts. Now it needs some task. Please read the project plan file and check if you understand the plan and know how you would proceed with implementation. Oh, I did a typo. If you have any questions, ask them now. Okay, and let's see what happens now. And it's already planning, analyzing, deciphering the project structure, outlining the project structure, understanding, and you could read all that, but usually no one does. But I kind of, usually when I work like this, I kind of monitor that just to see whether the model is not going in loops, which happens quite rarely, but it does, and whether it's on the right track, because if it does, I can always stop it and correct it. So it says, let's see what it says. Okay, it understood it. There are 4 phases. Emphasizing on isolating testing data and following development guidelines, which is clear, confident. I have one question, directory structure. To ensure we start with plan, deployment, creating another files. This can be a couple of ways, flat structure or package structure. Okay. So guys, which one we choose? Do we choose the package structure or we choose the flat structure? How do you think? Hi, Conrad, by the way. Okay. I will go with the flat structure because it's simpler. Okay, let's ensure that everything is clear. Okay, so I'm telling it to just basically just start. Just not waste any more time. Just start. And it's planning. While it is planning, I will do one more thing, which is I will copy the git ignore because I would like to create a git repository here just to keep my code. I mean, it's just like a habit, isn't it? So let's do git init. Yeah, okay. Okay, so I will have to add stuff, but we'll see. Okay, so in the meantime, as you can see, the agent decided to invoke a tool, and I can ask every time, and I think I will do that because I want to have control what it does on my system. It says make directories. Okay, I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it. Okay, so it created requirements txt. Now this is something that I don't like, but I will let it do it for now, because usually I'm not using requirements txt. I'm using requirements.en, and I'm using something called pip compile from pip tools to compile the actual requirements txt out of that. The advantage of this approach is that I have to list just the core libraries that I'm using, and everything else is kind of computed for me. So the requirements txt is kind of simpler. I mean, I don't have to look at it. I'm just looking at the requirements.in. Okay, so it creates the files, and I just accepted what it did, and I can have a look at it here. But also I can just, I mean, right now those are changes, but those changes are, I mean, everything there is because it's an empty file. So I can have a look at it before I accept it. And let's say looks fine. It's just a basic arc parse and a basic display data. Okay, that seems okay. So it now runs, it now wants me to run pip install, and let's allow it. So by the way, the model sees all that output, so the model knows what the result of the command was, whether the command produced the expected results or not. And let's see how that goes. We have all that installed. All dependencies are installed, and let's see whether this works. And something appeared. So it seems that the application correctly fetched and displayed the data for April with rich styling. Okay. And it did the same without the styling with the P flag. So let's, it kind of goes through tests, invalid ticker, it didn't break, and everything, oh, it doesn't like it. There was an error which we haven't seen, so it will now handle it. And now, did you notice how it goes? I'm basically just looking at what it does, kind of overseeing what it does. So I can now check, and this is the part that I really love. This is the code that it wants to remove in red, and this is the code that it wants to add in green. I can reject that, can tell it I don't like it, I don't want it. I can accept that, but I can also edit it. I can add something here, right? Doesn't make sense right now, but I could also edit it, and then I can say I accept it. And let's run again. And there is an error. So I think it should implement a try catching of errors. I don't. I lost the word. Okay. So again, it's running at. That's another interesting thing that is happening, and let's look at it. It's created a file which is called test. So it's something that is not part of the application. The model created a file just to test something. It's curious how it works. So, okay, no, it's not that. He created tests. Sorry for that. But this is not installed. So we have to install that as well. Exactly. Okay. So it just works. And it focused on tests. It will now correct them. As you can see, it added mocks. Let's allow it. Okay, I was confused for a second because I thought it's sometimes what it does. It creates like a file, like a small file that it runs just to check something like a setup or something, and then it remembers to delete it, which is really interesting. It happened like yesterday, and I was sure that it's going that. Okay, so this is the phase 1 complete according to our model. Now let's check that. Okay, so let's look at implementation plan. And by the way, if that was a production app, I would have spent like, I think, an hour reading that plan and correcting it by hand if there is anything that I don't like. I didn't do that because we are in a demo, so I'm kind of trying to run as fast as I can. But normally I would review that. Okay, so establish product foundation, that happened. The app will parse command line argument and fetch and display basic company data, proving the core connection to the Wi-Fi Finance API. Okay, so let's check whether that works. I could use the terminal inside here. So let's say we are in virtual environment, monitor XP. Okay, so let's try something else to see. Okay, so we have the information is correct at the first glance, and then we can also add the option. Sorry. Yep. And it is the same without formatting, so it's not very exciting. But let's check invalid ticker. That would be something like this. And let's see, there is an error. So I don't like that. Also without P, there will be an error. Okay, so what I can do now, I will just mark that and add it to chat with, I could use Control L, but I can just click here and I can say, okay, I do not like the fact that it throws 404 errors. It should so this is something that happens quite a lot. And then that's why I'm using phases. At the end of each phase, I'm able to test whatever was done now up until this point. And if there is any mistake, any error that the model has missed, I will not miss it. And hopefully. And then I can ask it to implement it better. And yep, you're absolutely right. This is really annoying that they're always kind of praising you as the user, that you are right, you are brilliant and everything. That's pleasant, but annoying. But in any case, it says that why finance prints the error directly to the console, and it doesn't raise an exception. So I will have, so it will have to do something that I didn't know that it works like this. So let's by clicking here, if I click here, I'm taken here to the file that is being edited. And if you look on the right, it also indicates with those green bars what has been changed, and I could have a look at it. Let's see what it wants to do. Okay, so we want to prevent Y-Finance from printing out the errors, and we want to show hours. Okay, I'm all for that. Let's see how it wants to do it. Okay, I mean, I can just accept it. I can accept whole file here. It modified 2 files, so I can look at another file as well. But and I can also here go from one change to the other. And this is the part of Cursor that I really, really like. But I can just accept everything here and another file here. And then let's run the test. Okay, perfect. The unwanted error is now suppressed, and our application handles the invalid ticket gracefully as intended. Thank you for pointing. That's nice. Okay, so we have reached a certain milestone. We have the first version of our the phase 1 working. Now, what I would like to do is document that. So please update the project file. Okay, that's important because if for whatever reason we are interrupted, for example, I don't know, my power goes out, which is something that happened 2 days ago, then I want to be able to resume. And there is this addition that this is status of that phase is done. Excellent. So let's now create a database, and we create the database files, and then it can go on with implementation. Okay, guys, how are you doing? Are you already asleep? Or do you have any questions, any observations about what's going on? Anything you would like to share? There's just the thumbs up from Victor. Thank you for that. And it's just proceeding. So as you can see, it's mostly sitting there now and looking. It's not like all that. We'll get to doing something in a second. Okay, so we have some changes again to review. Let's click the review the next file. This is a new file. So I will now check the database structure because that's something that is quite important. So we have ticker date OOHLCV, and the primary key is ticker and date. I think that's okay. That's all the data that we need to calculate all the indicators. There is a function to save that to historical data. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so I think I can accept that file. And let's see if there is any other things to accept. Let's look here. Yeah. Okay, I will just accept it. Now, normally, again, I would have reviewed that. Maybe not that, in not that detailed way, but okay, let's run it. And what I noticed here is that it very nicely used another ticker, one that we haven't used before, which is kind of nice. Okay, and there is an error. I'm not sure we have installed SQLite. I wonder if it will realize it, but so far it's working on on the changes, and let's see here. Clean and filter the data. How we want to filter the data? We want to standardize the columns. Open, high, low, close volume. Okay. I think it makes sense. And it returns a df, and I hope df is a data frame. Let's see if we have pandas. Yes, we have it. Okay, so let's run it. And now it works. Excellent. It worked. So, okay. And we have, let's see how that goes. But it doesn't execute instantly, which is really interesting. I don't know why. But it executed. And there is an alert. We haven't seen that, but there is an alert. A future warning using datetime with mixed time zones will raise an error. Yes, because that has changed, so it will just update it. It's a small change, so it's kind of learning from its own errors. And as you can see, it's just working. It's just working. Okay, so we have the demonstration. Now it will create a test database. Sorry, a test for that, and then it will run it. Let's see how the test looks like, because it's really interesting. But we have fixtures and we have a special DB file for testing. All good. So let's accept that file, and now let's run the tests. Okay, as usually they don't work, but it will correct itself in a second. Again, that's something that I would have probably reviewed if I wasn't with you guys. But as we are, we'll just accept whatever it does and click run and see what happens. The tests have failed, but at least the tests have run. And let's see. I'm not frustrated. I know why it thinks I'm frustrated. I'm not. I think it's doing a great job. And have you noticed that there is it has been running on its own for a long time without asking me to do anything except checking what's going on and accepting what it is doing. Now it is getting frustrating, and let's see what it does. But this is again something that if I was doing it manually, I would have probably skipped the test for now, and I would be pushing for functionality, let's be honest. But since I told it to have a test and a passing test at the end of each phase, this is what it is doing. Now let's see what it's changing. If it's changing the tests, I have no problems with that. But it had also changed the database, and let's see what this happened. Okay, I already accepted that. Let's run the test. It still fails. The way things are, in a moment, I would have to be looking at that manually. Okay. We would modify the test, create a real test.db file on disk, run the test against it, and then delete it. And I think that's a good approach. But this is an interesting moment to do something more. Okay, so I will write the prompt first. Okay, proceed with option 1. Test with a real file that will be then deleted. Because, by the way, I consider that to be a good, yeah, skipping the tests is not a good solution. I think testing with a real file is the optimal solution. Here is the optimal way of testing. But what I will do now, okay, so I see that my model is running into some problems. So let's now switch to another one. And this is why I love Cursor so much, because you see those models are different. They are not the same. They have different training data. They have different parameters layout or neurons layouts. they have different personalities, if you like. So if one has a problem or struggles, usually the other can work it out better. It's like with having a team, right? When we were working with teams, each person on the team was a different pair of ables, but also a different brain with a different attitude. So it's exactly the same with models. And the ability to just switch here with all the context, that means Sonnet did now get quite a large chunk of the history of what's happening here, not just the file and the last prompt. This is really something that changes changes the game, and it's great in Cursor. So I will accept the change. It says, okay, I will proceed with that. It will not test in memory. It will create a file. And now let's see whether that works. And hopefully that will work now. Okay, there is just 7 tests are passing. But there's something that failed. And that is really interesting why it failed. Oh no, that's the previous execution. Okay, so we have solved that. Let's check here, and we have historical data rows. That's excellent. And it already knew that it has to mark the phase 2 as complete. So on the fly, I have switched the models as you can see. I switched from Google. I switched to Claude 4. I will not now switch back to Google because of my sympathy for it, if you might say so. And we can proceed with another phase. So I just want to do one thing is that is I just want, sorry, I typed in the wrong window. And where's my shell window? That is not this. Okay, this is it. Let's see. Okay, so let's add doc and all the Python's file. Sorry for doing that, but I like to do that. By the way, if I wanted to go back, I really don't need Git, because I could go, let's say, here, and I can restore to that moment, and then decide that I want to do something else. And then it would restore the code to that moment and proceed from that moment onwards. Okay, so, I mean, let's go ahead. So we are moving forward. How are we doing on time? Oh, I don't have much time left, but I hope to get to a working application with complete test suite pretty quickly, and then we'll be able to show how we can then expand upon it. In the meantime, while it is working, I will do one thing. While it is working, I will do okay, I have that, and then I will be able to do the pip compile thing that I told you about. Okay, guys, questions, remarks, complaints. What else can it be? Insults. Okay, as you can see, it's going according to the plan and creating calculators. And this is or indicator calculator. And I want that to okay. I want to see how it goes with using our library or Jakob's library for technical indicators, which, as I already mentioned, it is yeah, okay. So calculating, we create a build dashboard function. That's okay. Okay. Before I write the code, we need to decide. The project plan mentions that we need to calculate CMX Keltner, and we have two main options: implement the formulas from scratch, use a specialized library. We can use a well-regarded Pandas TA, and yeah, but we know that QuantJourney TI is first of all much newer and second faster. So this is what we will do. But I kind of don't like it because if I look in the implementation plan and I go to phase 3, I think it should say something about it. No, it doesn't. Well, that's something that I would have checked normally when reading it. But okay, no worries. Yes, we will use specialized library, but we will be using QuantJourney.ti. It is much faster and reliable. Okay, these docs can help you. Okay, so I know now that I need to add some documentation, and now I could do it in two ways. So I have to give the model now the documentation for QuantJourney TI. Now QuantJourney TI, let's show this. Obviously I have it prepared here. This is the py.org page for it, but I want to, so what I can do, I could say web, and then paste a link here, for example, to this page, and allow it to figure it out. But I will not be doing that because I think I will be using that library quite a lot. So I want that to be part of my documentation. So I'm saying docs, and I just scrolled up to go to the bottom, and I can add a new doc. And it now asks me for a link. What link I will give it? I will go here, and Jakub correct me, but I hope this is okay. I mean, this is this indicators MD is complete and correct, right? I don't know if we haven't lost Jakub, but I hope he is there somewhere.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so we click on the row here to give it the row markdown without make it easy for the model. So let's put it here. Click enter. Let's name it QJTI docs. I could write QuantJourney, but makes no sense. Okay, so it indexes that, and it was quite quick because it's just one page. So these docs can help you. Okay, let's go ahead with that. Let's close this, and let's see what happens now. Okay, Jakub, can you suggest some other indicators than those three that would be beneficial to
Just
have
take
on?
I mean, it's a webcast on AI, so take the typical RSIs and think,
Okay.
or whatever to here.
I see functions for DI and ADOSC. I don't see the direct function for Keltner charts or CMF. Combine, substitute indicators. Let's use some other indicators. Okay, let's use some other indicators. RSI, SMA 20, SMA 50. What else? There is this one which is called Gamma.
EMA.
EMA?
EMA or Kama. Kama is fine.
Gamma is fine. I think maybe something. I mean that's okay. Okay. So now I forgot to add one in command, but I can do that later on. So we have made some changes, right, to our project. So that should be reflected in the plan because this will be the basis for the documentation. Okay, so it added the library. Let's now run the install. And I can allow model to do that. It's interesting that I don't have to do that manually anymore. Like 2 months, 3 months ago, I still had to manually install the libraries. The model just nicely asked for that. Now it's just installing. Okay, so the library has installed. It now creates the calculator and the UI and the test. So let's see how that works. Yes. Okay, so I will use QuantJourney to calculate RSI, SMA, take the history data frame, combine the results to single clean data frame, none values that appear at the beginning of the data series, which is normals, string for display purposes. That's okay. Let's look here. Indicator calculator. Import technical indicators. That would be TI class, which we initialize and then call. Okay. Does it look correct to you, Jakub, as the creator of the library?
Yeah, should be okay. Let's check.
I don't have to. You see, I have the creator of the library online. It's not.
You can also index the examples. As an example, there is a code which was like checked and run. The same with the test, so that should be easier. But yeah.
Okay. So let's and in the meantime, so you said something about, okay, the bug flag, import the calculate indicators after fetching the indicators. Okay, so now it imports that to the main file, and let's look at the main file. So here we are. This is the import. Okay, that looks okay. Let's see what else it does. Okay, so this is rich print. Okay, let's hope it works. Okay, so it changes the UI basically, so we can just accept it. And let's run and see what it does. And what is interesting is that it tries it again with a new ticker, with the one we have not seen before. There is a problem. Okay, there's future warning from pandas, the broken UI. Okay, so I will just let it correct itself. But in the meantime, so you, Jakub, mentioned something about indexing. How would you formulate that as a prompt? Maybe write that into the chat here, and I will just put it into our model and see what it does with your suggestion. How about that? Okay. Waiting for approval. Let's go back here, view. Let's see what it changed. Okay, this is just handling nouns. And this, what it is. We import box. I think we should need console as well, but let's see that. Okay, let's allow it to correct itself. Let's run this. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's help it. I would like to see the output that it's having. So let's run this ourselves. No, but I need to enable the virtual environment first. Okay, now I can do that. Let's see what happens. So that I can also see it. Oh, it rendered quite nicely. Okay. Okay, so I like this. I like what happened. So what I will do now, I will not take those changes. I will reject those changes. I will skip running again, and I will stop the model now. And I will say, okay, it seems this works, except it is not showing it as a full screen console display. Here is the image. So we can also feed it images. So let's create a quick screenshot. I don't know if you can see now. You cannot see that I'm doing a screenshot, but believe me, I'm doing a screenshot right now. I have it copied into, yeah, you can see the message now. I have it copied into the clipboard. I'm not now pasting it. It's showing here as image. You can see the image. And I'm sending that to the model. So our models, both all the newest OpenAI models, Gemini as well as Claude, they are multimodal, as they say, so they can look at the display. So it already noticed that the dashboard renders correctly because it does render correctly. So when you're developing full screen apps, and especially graphics apps, if you are developing something in Qt or something similar, it makes sense to just feed the images to the model, and it will be helpful for it. Okay, by the way, it looks quite nice, I have to say. So let's see what it will do now. And as it goes, this is so that's something that Google does a lot. It really shares all of its thinking, and you can see that there is lots of thinking going on. I mean, there's like pages of thinking going on. I would say that it's in deep thought as to what to do. Claude is usually less explicit about what it's doing in the background. Okay, so thanks me for they are so polite. It's really, I mean, it's sometimes annoying. Okay. Okay, so let's now do this, but I will not allow it to remove print flag. I will reject that, and I will explain why. I want to keep the -p option always per project plan to enable debugging for you in the future. So printout should show all the data and then exit. Okay. And this is something that I forgot to do. Speaking of project plan, we did change indicators that we will use. We also decided to use a particular TI library. Please update the project plan icon. Python folders, docs. Oh, I forgot the name. It's implementation plan. Sorry, implementation plan accordingly. Now this is important. It's easy to get carried away as the model kind of charges ahead with the code and forget to update the documentation. But as we all know, documentation that is out of date, it's worse than not having it at all. And will be, so it will take us some time, but it will allow us to, again, resume working if we are interrupted. So, yeah. So it kind of updates the plan. I'm not sure phase 3 is done, by the way, but let's hope it is. Let's see what it's doing. Okay, that seems okay. Okay, so I think that's okay. And let's see now. Okay, but I don't think has the created tests and run the tests. So let's switch to another model and do that. Okay. Okay. So we could go on and on. And in the end, we'll have something that runs. As you can imagine, I have done it before just without the tests to make it faster. So I can show you how it looks like. Okay, let's run the tests and see whether the tests pass. Okay, it realized that its assertions were wrong, not the code and not the library. And okay, let's run it again. So what I was saying is that okay, the tests are passing, so we are close to having a working product. But let's see what we have actually. Let's just see here what is being shown and whether that makes sense. I mean, does it make sense? So we have the technical indicators, but we don't have the current prices. And let's move ahead and let's see. Okay. And let's see how it adds that. So, but I wanted to show you something else. And this is where I have another terminal. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to build. I'm showing this to you just to kind of get some more time. And if you want to stay with me, we can finish that one because it has tests. It's better because it has tests. But I have built something like this before. As you can see, it's refreshing automatically every minute. So it also shows us the current prices, the changes, etc. Now, what I started to do is also started to build a Qt version of that. But that's another thing. We are adding interpretation here. So those are things that I will be adding here as well later on. I also think that I would like to have more than one ticker, but that's for the future. Any questions at this point? Is there anything that you took away from this lengthy demonstration? Is there anything you would like to ask? Before I move on to closing remarks. Wow, I'm kind of surprised a bit. Okay, so let's talk about some good practices. While this is being generated, I will switch to I will switch to presentation. But in the meantime, let's see what happened with our product. Okay, it just shows the values, but I don't see anything more. Let's see if it exits as expected. No, it doesn't. So there will be some. There will be. Oh, now it understood it as another ticker. Okay, so there will be some corrections to be done, but I'm sure I will be done with it within like 20 minutes. Now let's go back to some of the things that I wanted to share with you before we part ways, or at least those of you who want to run will be able to run. I have to stop sharing. Okay, it did stop, and now I have to share this window. Okay. And I want to talk about some good practices. The first good practice is that what I was doing here was not the best practice. I should have reviewed the plan step by step before allowing the agent to run. And also I should have paid more attention to some of the things that it does. So one of the things that I want to share also with you, Victor, is that what we need is think of our projects like having like 3 zones. And that's how I treat my project. So there is the core zone. For example, in this application, the core zone is actually calculating the indicators and showing them. Now the calculating part is done by the library, so we can trust it. Although I would probably take out a calculator and just check it on a few randomly selected tickers just to be sure. But still, I mean, we can trust the library. Let's assume that. But there is a bit of code that we have ourselves. Now let's suppose we were adding our own indicator, a unique one that no one else has. That would be our core zone. What that means? That means that I want to understand really every line of code in that zone. I really want to know what's going on. Because any errors here would be catastrophic. I want to have an intermediate zone where I understand the methods and functions, how the code functions in general. So I wouldn't be reading everything, but I would be checking what methods I have, what classes I have, what they do in general. And I have the vibe codings on everything else that is less critical. For me, that's usually the UI. I really don't care about the UI in terms of how it's written and whether it's a clean code or not. I just wanted to display whatever I wanted to display. This is so because I usually work with things like AI agents or applications that compute something. So the numbers are what is important. If you were developing, I don't know, I cannot find something where UI is the most important part, but for me it's the least important part usually. So I don't really have to understand it. So if it's a web app, I don't really dwell on CSS, for example, normally. I mean, I leave it to the agents to figure it out. So that would be the good practice. That's something I haven't done during the demo. That's something that I'm always doing when actually working on the code. So that's one thing to share. Another thing to share is when you prompt, I mean, short prompts usually are not that good. It's good to have more context. I actually keep some of the context in that plan file, which is being referenced over and over again. So going back to some caveats, this is still your code. That means whatever it does is your responsibility. So don't feel too comfortable with it yet, just yet. I mean, yet in terms of years that will come. Second, make sure you know what you are doing. And this is really important. The AI just amplifies expertise. If you really know what you are doing, this is an awesome tool. But if you don't understand what it's doing, that leads to poor designs and subtle, hard to find bugs. Find because usually there are poor architecture decisions or bugs that were working before and then they are not working anymore because the models that are developing your app took some different project decisions that you were not aware of. And I had a number of examples when that was happening, when I was manually correcting what the models were doing, especially in the core zone, but also in other in other situations. One example of that was, for example, when in an application I was building, I decided to not use an ORM or object relational model. I decided to use SQL statements, and like 2 weeks into the project, I fire up Cursor and I'm introducing a change, and I notice that the agent is introducing ORM into my project, which I didn't want. Now, if I wasn't aware of what it is doing, if I was a vibe coder, as they are called, I would have probably let it pass because it was working. But it was a project decision that I didn't want. So this is the danger. You actually have to understand what's going on. And then if you do that, it's a tremendous tool. But also, if you don't understand what you are doing, it's a tremendous tool to learn. But you have to take conscious effort. It all happens so fast. The application is being created so fast. It's so enticing to just go along with the flow. You have to stop and actually, if you are still learning something, actually consciously work over a piece of code you don't understand. And again, AI will help you because you can ask it to explain line by line, instruction by instruction, what's actually happening. And you will be learning quite fast if you do that. But it takes that conscious effort, that stepping out of the flow of ongoing development, right? So this is the end of the presentation that I have prepared. And I will be going back to my project because I'm really curious how it will turn out and whether that will be the dashboard that I expected to build. But I hope you had taken some value from today's session. Is there anything that you want to say or write before signing off? Let's stop the
I think
screen
it
sharing.
was great session, Andy. So I think a lot of people contribute and see the value. So yeah, great job.
So some of you might have seen themselves for a second. Okay, so I'm going back to my project. I'm going to see what's going on here. So we did some work while I was showing the slides. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I was testing that, and you can then try. Okay. Okay, so I didn't use it properly. So let's try it again. And let's see how it works. Okay, so it worked. I can check the ticker, and if I, okay. And let's see how that goes. Okay. So just for you guys, there is something that I was doing in the background. I started to So I have this. So this is something to show you as well, Jakob, because I have this working. So I have this working. What I wanted to okay, so let's exit. Okay, so what I did, I decided to create a graphic version of this. And this is what came out. And I used, oh, it doesn't work. Haha, because I have different virtual environment? No. No module. Yeah, it's a question of activate. And let's try it now. Oh, it doesn't work. That's something that has been happening to me on this machine. I don't know why. But if I'm working in cursor, sometimes the virtual environments get mangled. So I have to do this and do it again. And then reinstall everything. There's a lot of that. And let's see this. Has that changed a bit? So I have like 2 threads happening now. Okay, so the scaling is off, but everything else works. So let's go back here. Okay, so we have that installed. But I also need to install that. So this is for you, Jakub. I wanted to show you what I think okay.
I should say I love the names Potphoric, Monitoric.
Okay, so this is it. And yeah, it refreshes every minute. It doesn't look the way I want it to look still in terms of colors and stuff like that.
This is the old-fashioned Qt library introduced like 20 plus years ago, right?
Yeah, I know, but I still like it.
Oh yeah. I remember I made a course on Qt something like 30 years ago, 25 at least.
Oh, but it was a different Qt back then.
I know. Yeah, for sure, for sure. But it was probably the same in the graphic library, right?
Yeah, I mean, but I like this aesthetic. I mean, when I was implementing that, because okay, so what I did, I used Claude code on that, and I told it, okay, you have a working code in the terminal. Now make me a graphic version of that.
Okay.
And that's what came out.
It resembled some my what was called TCLTK years back.
Yeah, oh boy.
It's like
TCLTK
Good.
was one of the reasons why I didn't take up Cursor 30 years ago, because it was so slow back then on those machines at the time that it really didn't really work.
That's why I use Cursor now.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm using Python now.
Andy, thank you so much. I think we can conclude on this, and that was really great. I'm very lucky that you are one of the first users of QuantJourney Technical Indicators Library. We're still adding more indicators, and we want more people to use it. It's refactored and with all the speed up and things. It's still like a lot of things, but slowly we add more and let the people use it with full code shared and full Python and NumPy and NumPy version of Vectorize. So great.
Okay. Thank you, Victor and Robert, for sticking with us, if you are still there. And I think we will really conclude on this.